Hey everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and I'm here with another real estate investing video. Today, I'm going to talk about property management. So I'm going to talk a little bit about whether you should be your own property manager or hire one, and also some tips on how to find a great property manager and keep track of them. This is something that is very important for landlords, rental property owners. Rental properties can be an amazing investment, but they can be a horrible nightmare if you aren't managing them right or you have the wrong property managers. So I've got 20 rental properties now, have a couple more under contract to buy. I have a mix of commercial properties, residential properties, and primarily I'm going to talk about residential, but I'll talk a little bit about commercial as well. And if you hear any weird baby noises or cooing or crying, Irely, my 2-month-old daughter, is with me in here, so we'll see how she does. If she's noisy or not, we may have to cut this short and come back a little later, or maybe you'll never see this video at all. I'm just doing this for fun. We'll see. But of course, check out investformore.com. Have an article on there that goes over this as well with tons of information and information on all my rentals, flips, all that good stuff on there as well. All right, so should you be your own property manager? When I had 7 residential rentals, I was the property manager. Well, technically my wife was, but I pretended to be, but she did most of the work. And we would find our own tenants, screen them, collect rent, manage the maintenance on them, do all that ourselves. And after I got to 7, she pretty much told me I can't buy any more rentals unless we hire property management. And it doesn't seem like being a property manager would be that difficult, especially on your own rentals. And it's not super difficult, but it can be very time consuming. And it's a lot of little tasks, busy work, accounting, managing maintenance. We didn't do any of the work ourselves. That's a whole nother story. But, you can go a month or two without anything really coming up. And then all of a sudden you have a couple of vacant properties or a problem tenant. And you've got all this stuff going on at once. And it seems like it takes up all your time. So it can be easy at times and very difficult at times. But the things that I found was I was not a good property manager and I was not tough enough on my tenants. I would believe the sob stories, and every single tenant has one. Doesn't matter what's going on. Everybody has an aunt who just died, a grandparent who died a couple times, someone else is in the hospital. They have, it just is never ending. And it doesn't matter how good the tenants are. It seems like everyone has an emergency. And if you give in to that emergency, it'll just keep happening over and over and over again. So we wouldn't always charge late fees. We'd be nice to the tenants. And it was fine, but it encouraged bad behavior. So something we figured out was when we handed the property management off to somebody else, I think I made more money. Even though I was paying a property manager, they were doing a better job of screening tenants. They were doing a better job of collecting rent. They're doing a better job of charging late fees. And the bottom line was actually better because they were better managers. And it was so nice to have that off my chest. Even though it didn't seem like it is that much work, it kind of is. So something to think about. If you want to be your own property manager, it does take time. It does take work. And you need to be kind of tough and be able to handle tenants. And something else I learned too is you can't just go by your gut. We'd meet some tenants like, oh, they seem fine. Sure, they had a foreclosure last year, but it's probably okay. And that doesn't usually work out well. So you really have to, be very logical about who you choose. Doing background checks, credit scores, making sure they have enough income, verifying their job history, all kinds of stuff. We've had tenants before who we picked, who were behind on rent and hadn't paid in 2 months. And then all of a sudden, there's a car dealership calling us saying, hey, these guys are trying to buy a $40,000 car. Are they up, on their rent? Are they current? And we're like, no, they're not. They need to pay us their rent and not buy a car. And that really happened. It's just crazy what you'll see. But a really good property manager has experience, too, dealing with tenants, seeing through some of the stories. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that can happen. So for me personally, it's so nice having someone else manage them. I think a lot of people too will see the benefit of having a property manager. It really does make a world of difference. And just real quick, doing the work, I've never done any of the work on any of my rentals at all. Some of our house flips that we've done, I made that big mistake, and I've talked about that in my other videos. But on my rentals, hire out everything. It's a big misconception that you're getting phone calls in the middle of the night to go fix a toilet. I've never fixed a toilet before, and I'm pretty proud of that, at least on my rental properties, or my flips even. And we don't ever take calls at 2 a.m. either. That's just not something we do. You don't have to do that as a landlord. You can hire that out, and property managers are actually fairly cheap too. Like for our property managers now, I think we are charged 8% of the rents every month, and then like a half a month leasing fee when they have to find a new tenant. They charge us half a month's rent to find that new tenant. And in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty low for them taking over everything. And then of course I'm lucky too, because I have my own brokerage, and those property managers are in my brokerage, and so then I actually get a cut of the rents they receive for them being in my brokerage. So that helps out as well. But you have to make sure you find those good property managers, and that's something I want to talk about in this video as well. So I have some tips and tricks, and again, I have an article on the blog that goes through all this in details, and I'll link to that below in the description. But there's some things to do that you might not think of all the time. So first of all, you have to find a property management company, and there's a lot of bigger ones that might be listed online, might be on Zillow, but there's also a lot of small kind of mom and pop property managers as well who might not be advertising. They might be harder to find. So you really have to ask around. Ask real estate agents, title companies, lenders, inspectors, anybody you know in the real estate industry, friends, family, if they know property managers. Because I know quite a few real estate agents who are pretty much property managers and just sell a few houses, but they don't advertise at all. And a lot of them are like, hey, I have enough business, I don't need to advertise, it's just through word of mouth. So there might be some really good property managers that way. And then there might be some bigger ones that advertise as well. So the first thing to do, once you've got your list of property managers and you found out who you want to try out, is what I like to do is call them up and pretend I'm a tenant. So you don't want to call them up and say, hey, I've got all these houses I want you to manage, tell me what you do, all this stuff. First off, I call them up, pretend I'm a tenant, hopefully I can find some house online that's for rent and ask them about it. So you can see, hey, one, do they answer their phone? It's not the end of the world if they don't answer their phone, but that's a good sign if they do. And two, they don't answer their phone, do they call you back? Because in the real estate world, just like any other business, there's good people, and then there's mostly bad people. And a lot of them won't even call you back. So just think to yourself, if you have a property listed with them to rent, and they don't answer their phone and don't call back tenants, how good are they going to be at renting the home? So they might get crossed off the list right away. If people can't do their job, I'm not there to give them a chance and help them and walk them through how to do it. I don't have time for that. So don't be afraid to cross companies off your list if they do something crazy, weird, or aren't doing the basics. So that's one thing. If they do answer, if you do talk to them, ask them about the properties, the rent, pets, what condition it's in. Try and get as much information as you can, and see if they know the information as well. See how knowledgeable they are. If they really know this property, or if it's just one of 500 they have and they don't really care. You can get a feel for that by calling them, and you probably want somebody who cares about your property, knows about it, and you're not just a 1 out of 500 people who they could care less if it actually rents or not. So that's something to think about. And something else to look at, while you're looking at the rental listings and stuff, are they charging market rent? So if you're a landlord, if you're buying rental properties, one thing you should know is market rent. However you figure it out, you should know that. That's your business. Agents can help you. There's all kinds of things that can help you. But if you have an idea what market rent is and you're seeing these other listings, are they charging market rent for their property? Some property management companies will be way below market just to get stuff rented fast. And I've seen that before with property managers where they're like $300 or $400 less than they should be, and it's just because they're lazy. They either aren't doing the research to see what rents really are, or they just want to get it rented really fast and go from there. So make sure market rents are what they should be. If they have websites, check the pictures, see how the pictures are, see how stuff looks. I've seen listings on companies' websites that had a date-stamped picture from like 8 years ago. Advertising this property, like really, 1, you couldn't crop out the date stamp. 2, why do you have a date stamp? 3, why are you using a picture that's 7 years old? So there's a lot of things you can tell from looking at the websites, calling up the property managers, and talking to them as a tenant. Something else you can do, of course, is talk to them as a landlord, call them up, see what they charge, see if they have availability, really interview them. Remember, you're giving them business, so you're kind of the boss in this situation. Don't be afraid to ask them tough questions about how they market things, how they determine rents, how long they've been in business, how many vacancies they have, different things like that. And finally, something else you can do that really can help in the long run is once you figure out, hey, here are a few properties they have for lease, or a lot of times property management companies will have signs on their property say, hey, managed by such and such. Start paying attention to that stuff when you're driving around looking at houses. See how their properties look. So there are a couple companies I know from my area. You can pretty much tell what properties they have managed because the yard is dead, the roof is shot, the paint is just peeling off the houses. They're a mess, and they don't maintain them. And it's not like they have one tenant, or landlord, who just won't pay for repairs. It's almost every single property they manage. You can just tell they don't care. They're not trying to get their landlords to fix them up. They're not making the tenants water the grass. They're not doing anything to maintain the property, and you don't want that to happen to your property either. You don't want your property to be the one that people drive by and be like, oh man, that looks horrible. Maybe I can try and buy it because it's so horrible looking. So make sure you have properties that are maintained well too. And once you choose your property management company, check up on the properties. Don't just ignore them and hope everything works out great. Drive by them. Make sure the grass is watered, the things are maintained. The property management company should be doing checks, twice a year, sometimes quarterly, on the properties to see how, everything looks. The smoke alarms work, the carbon monoxide detectors work, all that stuff. Ask to come along once in a while. Like, hey, the next time you do your check, can I come along and see how this house looks? So you can check up on them, see what they're doing. And finally, repairs. So property management companies will do maintenance, repairs. You can ask them, hey, do you guys take an upcharge for repairs? Because some property management companies, maybe they have a contractor that does a repair for $5,000, but they charge you $7,000 and they keep the difference. And that's legal, but in many states they have to disclose if they're doing that. So you can ask them, hey, are you taking upcharges or surcharges, whatever you want to call it, for repairs being made? How much are you taking? What do common repairs look like on your properties? That's something that can be concerning to you as well, because you don't want to be gouged and paying crazy, obscene prices if there's maintenance needed, rekeying, all kinds of other stuff. So there's lots of different things you can do to find the right property management company, to check up on that property management company, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Communication is key. Like I always tell my property managers, hey, if there's ever a tenant who's late, if one gives us notice they're moving out, if there's a house that's having problems, let me know. I want to know what's going on. I want to know there might be a potential problem. Don't just keep me in the dark until one day, like, oh, hey, we had to do an eviction that cost you $8,000 and they trashed the house. I'd like to know beforehand there might be a problem and an issue coming up. So those are some tips, some tricks. Irely's starting to make a little bit of noise if you didn't hear already, so I'll get out of here. Of course, check out investformore.com. I'll have that article in the link below if you want to see that with more tips, lots of great information. If you have comments or questions, leave them below. Always love to reply to those and see those. Of course, we appreciate the likes and subscribes too. So, thanks for watching. Hope you guys appreciate the videos. If you have suggestions for new videos too, leave them below. There's a good chance I've already done it and you just haven't seen it, or we can always make new ones. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon.